obviously talk a lot about gender issues on this show, the differences between men and women, what things are plaguing both sexes. But one of my favorite YouTubers ever, again, he does amazing on-the-street journalism and on-the-street videos. He turns it into amazing video essays. He just did a video on modern society possibly hurting masculinity. We're gonna watch that today. He does an excellent job. But before we get into it, make sure that you like this video, subscribe to the channel if you have not already, and ring that notification bell so that you never miss a comment section or off the vlog episode.
Today I'm out here and the question that I'll be asking is masculinity toxic?
Yes, they never express like their feelings. It's something that you learn from society.
I get that's something that we probably learn from society, but I think naturally men don't express their feelings very well. I mean, you know, you can't exactly tell a man to really worry about his feelings when he has so many other responsibilities on his plate, and other people look up to him to be stoic and be the type of, you know, leader that they need in the household or in society, wherever, work, wherever. So like, it's not toxic that men don't show their emotions. It's just what we are, and if you can't deal with it, then maybe, I don't know, you just don't deal with it.
There's a lot of pressure put on like men, the pressures society put on what masculinity is.
That actually might be the first time that I've ever heard that, so I'm excited to get into that more, because these women were saying men act this way because of the pressures put on them versus they built this society, they created the patriarchy. It's like maybe they're taking some responsibility. That could be interesting.
We don't allow people to kind of define that for themselves.
Oh, I need to be a strong and masculine man because I want people looking at me and get women and whatever. I think that's toxic masculinity.
Sorry, bro. Sorry, buddy. Like, if you feel comfortable with your soy boy long hair, you know, kind of already looking like a woman type of, you know, feel, I mean, go right ahead. But men who act masculine and want to get women and want to be seen or known, it's not masculine toxic behavior. Like, you cannot put that on men. That if they're beating women or treating people who they think are under them in a disrespectful manner, then maybe that's more toxic masculinity, other than like, oh, I want to be seen, or I want to sleep with women because I'm biologically programmed to be that way. Like, if you want to call that masculinity or toxic masculinity, then, you know, you go right ahead, buddy. But, you know, whatever.
Classical role of men is not like sustainable today.
It's not sustainable today. Maybe we are struggling because men are not playing that traditional role. Have you ever thought about that? Like, in what way is a traditionally masculine man not sustainable in our modern society? Maybe you just have some completely backwards view of what men act like and what masculinity truly is, but it fits in perfectly. It's the yin-yang situation.
More women that prioritize careers over like family. Not being the breadwinner in certain like cases can be like makes some men self-conscious, like feel like they do not belong as much.
I think you can be masculine just by being yourself.
Yes, that is true, but I think that just shows that a lot of this is natural. Like, men naturally lean into being the provider and being the protector. That is the role that they want to play. And if they are then turned on and say, no, you can't do that. No, I'm gonna make more money than you. I'm the girl boss. Obviously, that's going to be very confusing, and they're getting a lot of conflicting information from one side saying be very masculine, another side saying no, I don't care. Inside of them is saying I'm supposed to be protecting and leading. Obviously, they're going to be very confused.
And it's also a little bit of the single mom epidemic as well. A lot of single moms raised all these, you know, boys, and it's hard to, you know, shake that program and start really being truly masculine and not the form of masculinity that your mother taught you.
Like, today we can't seem to get along, and it's like men are demonized. What do you think it means to be a man today in 2023 though?
In 2023, you don't even need to look anything like a man.
So that is it all about looks? Is that just because I don't think that masculinity is about how you look?
I think he had a little bit more to say. You know, at least let's be fair. You know, maybe he didn't really look like he had a lot to say, but I mean, probably a little bit more than that. I mean, because he's probably talking about like the transgender stuff.
And how much you bench press or anything like that. The more masculine man will probably care more about his health and his fitness, but it's not the most jacked, beefiest, Chad-looking guy. And boiling it down to that, I think does a disservice to what true traditional masculinity really is. Or maybe we could pretend that this guy is based and he was saying, you know, a man doesn't even have to look like a man anymore, and he's just saying that, you know, in this society women can become men. Maybe he is, I don't know, but we can play devil's advocate there. Anyway.
A lot of people that like transition from like being female to male have seen that they are treated completely differently. I don't get cut off as often. People actually care about what I say.
So I'm guessing that that girl is like my age. Did she live in a time as an adult where men didn't care about what she had to say and where she was treated unfairly? Or is she just thinking that she would have been treated unfairly because millennials told her that because they made up this lie in their head that they were, you know, discriminated against? 200 years ago, women had fewer rights, but we've moved past that. Like, we have gained equality under the law. This girl who's my age, you haven't experienced that. You were a child learning this from your parents, from the books that you were reading. Like, I remember growing up, and my mom definitely leaned a little, you know, into the feminist stuff, like wanting to raise an empowered woman, and then she really scaled that back when she saw how crazy the feminists got, especially when it came to, you know, sexual exploration and empowerment and all that stuff. But I remember being young and being like, oh, I can be better than the boys, like all this stuff. It was a very unhealthy way to, I think, spend a good portion of my childhood, but I can understand where these people come from because those are the messages that you are fed. Did you actually experience that on a first-hand level? No, I don't think you did, because again, you're probably 21 years old, 23 years old. It's important to note that we see these extremes and this anger on the internet 24/7, especially if you are more chronically online like I am. And you might meet a person in the real world who has this, you know, festered anger, but most people, they actually just want to get along. Like, I'm remembering being in high school and being in college and hanging out with all of my guy friends and, you know, doing big, like, fun, cozy game nights. Nobody was talking about this. We didn't care. We were mainly concerned with how comfortable we were. Anyway, okay, let's get back into the video.
Do you think society still values masculinity?
I don't understand why would we need to value that.
Oh my God, really say the
Why
quiet
not?
part out loud.
I feel like it's not good to be like defining what's good and what's wrong. It's whatever you're feeling.
Everything
You cannot just run your life off of how you feel. That is ridiculous. Like, how many times am I going to hear this rhetoric? I mean, you cannot just feel like, you know, not working today and just like think that everything's going to be all right. You cannot just like feel like not being productive and not cleaning up your house or apartment and just thinking that, you know, people are still going to want to, you know, kick it with you. You know, like, you cannot just run your life by your feelings. That is just ridiculous.
is nothing. Nothing is everything. There is no men and women, no masculine, no feminine. It's just whatever you want.
Just whatever you want to be.
I have masculine traits, and I think I have feminine
I
traits.
can
Feminine
tell.
traits that I was thinking about, my hair, some parts of
Yeah.
my face look like that,
Yeah.
but facial hair and stuff, those things are like masculine.
Again, it's not just physical behavior.
And it's not just aesthetics either, bro. Like, your long hair really does not make you masculine. You grow your hair out because you want to be more feminine. And you made that choice. You know, it's not an aesthetic thing.
It's very normal for people to have more traditional masculine traits. Like if you were a woman, I am probably a more masculine woman compared to a lot of girls that I know. I am trying to be more feminine.
Get it, girl.
Because I think that is something that I missed in my childhood. I was, very much a tomboy, and I think that that's, a side of me that I should lean into more. But we are all very unique human beings. It's not like, oh, I can't be masculine because I have some more, feminine. No, you are a human being with a wide range of human emotions and experiences. You have a unique personality, and that's totally fine. That doesn't mean that you can't be masculine or that you need to turn your nose up at masculinity or femininity or those kinds of, binaries.
Now,
Yeah, you just make your own choices about how you want to be and how you want to move in this world, and that's completely fine. Go ahead and do that. But you cannot call one thing this because it looks like that. Like, it doesn't work that way. You've made certain choices through your experiences.
I wanted to ask an expert to see if he knew the answer.
You mentioned that both the left and the right are approaching masculinity incorrectly. Why do you think this gap exists where only the extreme definitions of masculinity is currently being presented?
It's one symptom of a broader problem.
Makes me think of Andrew Tate. That's gonna get me some pushback. I don't really care.
The right are saying you should be more like your dad, and the left is saying you should be more like your sister. And in the middle are most of us, and trying to figure out how to be guys in a world that's changed.
I don't even think that it's you should be more like your dad. I think that is an oversimplification, to be honest. For people my age, I think their fathers were already dealing with some of this because the sexual revolution had already happened.
Is he thinking about this through a female's lens, or is he thinking about this through like a guy's lens though? Because I figured a lot of guys want to make their dads happy, or not exactly be like them, but achieve something that their dad probably would have wanted to achieve when they were their son's age. So I think she's probably looking through it a little bit more of a female's lens, because I think guys do want to be a little bit like their dad. Like that's who they look up to. Like that's what they got their traditional values from. If they grew up in the same house as their dad, but I think she's kind of looking at it through a female's lens.
Honestly think that most of them are looking at like the red pill alpha dudes that are on Twitter and Instagram and
The ones that don't have their dads in their house.
TikTok and all that stuff. Like I think that that's more of what they're looking at. And you guys know my feelings about that. I think that that is, a caricature of masculinity. I don't think that that is actually what being a masculine man is like. I would push back on that point. But I do agree that there are many, many extremes and that there are a lot of men in the middle who just don't know who to turn to, who to look up to. I absolutely agree that there is a lack of, let's say, like, normal male role models who don't play into any of the stuff, that genuinely just want to empower men. I think Jordan Peterson is one of the biggest. Chris Williamson, who was on my show recently, I think that he is an exceptional resource for a lot of men, but he is right that there's a big divide.
How do you think the role of masculinity has evolved over the years?
So I'm Gen Z, and I feel like we're a lot more open to talking about our feelings, and the guys even, but I still think we have a long way to go.
I think we can stop. I think we talk way too much about our feelings. I think we have crossed that bridge. Maybe we need to take a few steps back. There's a lot of feelings going on. To be a functioning adult, to be a productive member of society, you must be able to work through your emotions and not let them control you. I think we've gotten to a point now where you are spewing your feelings about everything. Emotion is king, it rules, and then that controls people. And that is not healthy. Both for men and women, we should work on that.
Do you think that toxic masculinity is a result of biology or culture?
Culture, definitely. It all depends on how you're brought up, and how, for example, a guy who's raised with women will have a different personality to guys raised with men.
I actually was surprised that she said culture versus biology.
I think so too. If it's by culture, then how is it a bad thing? Because we all know the culture is messed up, don't we? We all know the culture is pushing all these women to be OnlyFans models and promiscuity and all that kind of stuff, and wanting men to be more feminine and all that kind of stuff. I mean, we are literally pushing porn on Twitter and doing all this kind of other weird stuff in our culture nowadays, and we all know it's kind of bad. So if the culture made masculinity bad, then why are we just running with culture that's already doing all this bad stuff?
As I've heard a lot of people just say, they're just wired this way. You can't change them, these awful men. I think that is actually a very good answer.
Ooh, that's good.
As an adult, I'm sure with men, just like with women, how you were raised, how your father mentored you. And I'm sure, like with women, the way that men are raised in different households with different mentors, different parents, it will contribute to how you interact with the world and how you express your masculinity, whatever you want to call it.
In a recent study of over 4,000 men in Europe, they found that thinking masculinity is bad for your behavior is linked to having worse mental health. But when men are viewed as oppressors, is there even any room for empathy for male struggle? In your definition, it seems like a man who is acting very, let's say, masculine might be considered toxic masculinity. Would the opposite be considered toxic femininity?
The way I said it, I guess it should be. I don't think that that's ever been talked about, really.
Because women are the protected class.
Exactly. Women, you can't say anything to women about their bad behavior. You can't say anything to women when they feel like they've been wronged and they're just playing out their emotions because I deserve to, because I've been wronged. I feel like I've been so wronged and now I need to let everybody know. And you can't really, can't really say anything about that, can you?
We should be talking about toxic femininity, though, because there is a lot of that. I think that the word toxic has gotten overblown and we use it for a lot of things. There are people that are actually toxically masculine. I don't even want to use that word. There are men who are aggressive that are bad men. We can say that they're toxic women, toxic men. There are toxic people in the world. I do not think that we need to boil down both genders into that. There is bad behavior on both sides, which is the main point. And not being able to talk about one while constantly shining a light and, nitpicking through the other, that is the problem. I think
when you just generalize that all men have this masculine, toxic behavior about them, that all men can just be some kind of monster inside of them, just waiting to be exposed. Like, you can't, run society that way when all the women are afraid of the men because they might, harm them some way, somehow, maybe sometime, maybe at some point. Like, that's just not sustainable. You have to give women the certain type of skills to be able to identify the men that aren't toxic.
I think we've mostly focused on men and like patriarchy.
I've never heard about toxic femininity.
I think in general in society, we're more accustomed to hearing about toxic masculinity rather than toxic femininity.
So why is that?
Yeah.
Is that a problem?
It sounds
You're
like
very confidently admitting that yes, we talk more about the patriarchy.
Yeah.
Maybe turn the mirror on yourself and see if you need to talk about your own behavior.
The word that
Sounds
men would
good.
use for toxic masculinity is hysterical, crazy. So that maybe that's why we didn't hear about that. Women, maybe that's why you never heard that.
So that's not okay.
Yeah.
She's obviously not.
It's not okay to name call. Exactly, right? So calling my masculinity toxic, that's the same thing, right?
pleased with being called a crazy bitch or whatever she said, but it's okay for her to stand at a man on the street video and rip into men and say that masculinity is toxic. That's a double standard.
Everybody's kind of toxic in their own way. We don't go through life the same way that men do. Guys can just walk out at night and be like, I can go in the store at midnight. I can't do that. Women in general are seen as like mean.
The most toxic femininity I would say is among girls. I feel like girls are more judgmental toward girls.
That's very true. That is very true. Girl toxicity, girl jealousy, it is very, very real. I like that line from Barbie. Let's bring it back to Barbie. There was that one. It was like, girls hate girls, and it was like, and then guys hate girls, and that's the one thing you can agree on. I don't agree that men just hate women. I think actually more women hate men these days.
Yeah.
But she did hit the nail on the head with girls hate a lot of girls.
At a school assembly in Broward College.
And what's up with like, I can't go out at night by myself. One time I was out here taking a walk and in the middle of the night, just around my complex, and a deer came out of the woods. Like if that deer wanted to attack me, then I'd have been in some trouble. And it was only out running around in the streets that late at night, or running around in the streets because it was that late at night. So I'm not exactly safe from other men. I gotta worry about nature too, running around at night. I mean, even like raccoons and stuff like that. There could be one that just wants to attack me and give me rabies, and that's the whole hospital trip. Like, come on, like. I know men are like a big danger to even other men in the world, but there are other dangers that men have to deal with too, like toxic femininity.
College in Australia, all male students were told to stand up and apologize on behalf of their gender for collective ills such as sexual assault. And although the justification was in response to growing concern about treatment of girls at the school, girls were left feeling exposed and upset, while boys were made to feel guilty for being men.
It does not help either side. Pitting us against each other does nobody good. It only furthers the divide.
In an era where we're encouraging boys and men to be more open, it becomes challenging for them to actually do so when they're still receiving messages that their feelings and perspectives aren't really that valuable.
I mean, this is a perfect example that he brought up. These women are talking about how, masculinity is so toxic and men need to be more open with their feelings. And men could do, a lot more work on that. But then you have these schoolboys who have been forced to apologize on behalf of their gender for something that they never did. They're saying they're upset. I'm sure the school didn't give a shit about that. They don't care. It's like, no, that's your gender. That's your fault, actually. You're upholding the picture. Like, you just said you wanted them to be open. You're once again confusing them because you're saying, no, actually, we don't want you to talk about that because it goes against what we believe about you and about the patriarchy. No wonder they're confused.
And if expressing even slight sensitivity about the male experience is viewed as invalidating the female experience, how can we ever expect to establish healthy communication?
I don't agree with first wave nor second wave feminism, but I do think that their work has done a lot for women nowadays.
That was like actual
first wave.
First and second wave feminism was legitimately feminism.
Yeah.
That is the definition of feminism. What we have now, absolutely not. Well, you could not agree with that. They got you the right to vote.
Whereas male issues, we've only seen a
And to
rise
work.
in this concern over the last couple of years.
Maybe because you made it up yourself. Maybe because things were so good, people got a little bored and wanted to create some problems.
then there needs to be maybe more of a
People wanted to create problems to try to get back to that simple way of living, or people were just so confused that they created problems when there weren't any, and they were just so exhausted, and they didn't know what they got into, and they didn't want to admit they were wrong. Sucked for you.
Movement?
What if that's what it's gonna take? Maybe this whole women starting to work. It didn't work for women because they both don't need each other anymore.
This chick is base.
You have this kind of weird thing where men can't be emotional and vulnerable. Women, they kind of have to get tough and hardened if they want to pursue that path of careerism. And it's like, where are we at?
The denigration of quotes women's work has been to make it even less likely that men are going to want to do it. And then by extension, if we don't pay teachers very well, that also makes it harder for men. If we want more men to do more women's work, then we'll have to elevate women's work.
So how can more men adapt and create a new future moving forward?
Right now, we're just leaving too much talent and energy on the floor because we're losing so many of our men. More women have to pick up more of the work. They have to do the men's work of earning the money and the women's work of raising the kids. So the mere presence of there being other engaged dads around the community is good for everybody.
That's one thing that I don't understand with feminists. You wanted to work so badly, and then you're going to come home and you're going to do more housework. Obviously, you could argue the man should be doing that, the man's just not going to work. But again, you really want that? You would rather be working 80 hours a week, come home, not serious. It's just, I don't know. Maybe that's just a personal just confusion of mine. I don't understand why I would choose to be sitting in a cubicle or even a corner office versus being with the children that I literally birthed and nursed. I don't know. I'm not a mom yet, but I doubt that will change.
And I feel you, Brett. I don't want to be stuck in the house with a whole bunch of screaming children all day, changing diapers and feeding them. I don't want to be doing that. I'd much rather be out working or giving myself to something more, that brings value. She has her value. She's a mother. She made a children, or she made a child. She has value already. I need to be out in the world focusing on building mine up so I can provide for them. That's the yin and yang she was talking about.
You need to start loving men more in order to allow them to grow.
That's shocking to hear that. That is actually, I can totally agree with this girl. I have not agreed with a lot of the things that she has said, but that is a very important take.
What feminists and men's rights often overlook is that each gender's actions always influences the other. And understanding this interplay is crucial in fostering a better approach. And to promote change, we must let go of this notion of masculinity as inherently toxic. Because it's only by doing so that we can appreciate the good of masculinity and encourage the next generation of men to learn from past mistakes. Because even in the hypothetical scenario of Barbie Land that started with an authoritarian matriarchy followed by angry Ken dolls overthrowing it to create an extreme patriarchy in response, both instances demonstrated that the extremes can only hurt the other gender.
He gets it! He understood Barbie the way that I saw it. That is awesome. I love that.
Vindication!
His videos always end on a very positive and empowering note, and I think that that's why I like them so much, because it's never doomsday. It's always there is something that you can do. There is common ground that you can find. He has so much empathy with his street interviews. Anyway, it's just so great. If you're not subscribed to him yet, please do that. The word toxic masculinity has hurt masculinity in itself. Yeah, the phrase toxic masculinity has probably been more toxic for masculinity in society than any of the quote-unquote toxically masculine behavior. Somebody commented and said, there is nothing wrong with masculinity, and I think they meant to say take, but you can't take misandry and extremes seriously. Somebody else said, society is currently going towards a downward spiral. I believe both sides should come together and agree on something somewhat equal. And I think that goes for political sides, but also the genders. I mean, just everything is so divided. Racially, we're divided.
It's never going to be equal. We can't be equal. We can have equal rights. We can all choose to do the same things, and if we're qualified, we can go and do them. But being equal, we're not going to be equal. You're never going to be as strong as me. You're never going to be able to run as fast as me, faster than a man, or all this other kind of stuff that men can do better than women physically. It's just, we're not going to be equal. We've had equal, but there's nothing in this world that a woman can't do that a man can't. So we're not equal.
In terms of sex, we are divided. Politically, we are so divided. It's very difficult to make change happen. Somebody said toxic feminism has surpassed toxic masculinity. I would have to agree if I wanted to use those terms. Another person said the fact that women seem to think that dudes can just wander around late at night completely unconcerned is hilarious to me. That is actually an excellent point. I have not covered this yet because yes, I think that historically women have probably been more concerned about walking alone at night and being unprotected. If you live in a state or a country where you can have a pew-pew, you should have that and you should be, protecting yourself. There is no reason why you should not be. But like, have you guys seen the serial killers that are going after men? It is insane. It's wild. Like, and the numbers are skyrocketing, especially in big cities. So yeah, no, men are not just walking around unscathed. Somebody else said, people gotta understand there is
a serial killer running around killing men? That's weird. Jesus Christ, like, I mean, sounds like that's a good way to probably, tell women, like, hey, like, they're not safe either. But, like, hey, bro, stop killing men, though. Like, it's weird.
Somebody else said, people gotta understand there is not toxic this, toxic that. There's internet people and then there are real people. Like, go outside and your whole perspective will change. Yes, there are real people and also there are good and bad people. We do not need
Right, like the real people, the people online, they are real people, but there are just like literally good and bad people. You can't separate internet people from real people because those internet people, they are real people, even if they do have 20, fake accounts. Like, they still are real people. Like, you can't just dismiss that. But they're bad people. Like, so we gotta discern what is the good and what is the bad, right?
To be generalizing the entire gender. We can criticize movements and ideologies, but we shouldn't just label people on a whole because of something that they literally cannot control.
I don't really have too much to say after this one, but it is all going to be alright. It is all going to be, okay, eventually, maybe someday, probably. I'm trying to, end it on a happy note, right? We're trying to be more positive at the end of these, right? Like my boy, like, what is his name, Jen something? Yeah, like, we want to be more positive at the end of these videos, but, if we can somehow come to some kind of agreement to where, we can all maybe go back to being a little bit more traditional, or just, women stop being so promiscuous. Like, I really feel like, we need to get rid of prawn sites. We need to get rid of OnlyFans. We need to get rid of prawn. It's not good for society. It really helps us really demonize the other gender, more so for men, but we cannot just keep looking at naked women online and just being okay with that, thinking that there's nothing wrong with that, or people actually having sex online. And just like with Instagram and Twitter and TikTok, like we're just so overblown with beautiful women, aren't we? We just get so much of it all the time. Like, it's awesome to be looking at beautiful women, but geez, like, back in high school, we thought like, just beautiful women were just, there's only a few beautiful women at your high school, right? Like, but now you see millions of beautiful women. You can just go down your Explorers page on either Twitter or Instagram, whatever, and just see beautiful women after beautiful women after beautiful woman. And we all kind of think that, that's what we want, or mine that I have right now isn't that, so maybe I should be aspiring to that, because we all want to be ambitious, right? We all want to strive for, the best, because we work really hard, right? So we want the best when we come home, yeah, but we also want someone who has integrity, is driving to be more virtuous in this crazy world. We want that person that is going to be a good parent, right? So you can't exactly just be like, oh, that one's pretty, I want that one, mine isn't good enough. That's the dehumanizing of people, right? So maybe just, hypergamy is in men as well. It's in women a little bit more severely, but it also is in men, and we always do try to go for the best. So, like, share, subscribe. Thanks for joining me.